Well, thank you very much indeed, Malcolm, and it's a pleasure to work with yourself and Oil and Gas UK, and it's a privilege to have the chance to share my thoughts with you this morning at this event sponsored by Endeavour. I imagine that there are very few of you sitting here at this breakfast today who are not rather sceptical about governments of any hue. And I know that that was certainly when I was running a very small business in Glasgow for 17 years before I became an MSP. That was my view. And indeed, my favourite quotation from that experience of business and doing business and dealing with government was that of former President Ronald Reagan, who said the 10 most fearful words in the English language are, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help you." So that feeling lingers on for those of us who are in politics who were in business. And it was for that reason that when I became the Energy Minister around 18 months ago, I felt that we needed a new oil and gas strategy. We needed an oil and gas strategy which was substantially devised by the industry, not by me, not by civil servants, but substantially written by those of you here who are of the industry and have a clear understanding of the problems, challenges and opportunities that we face, as we've indeed heard this morning so eloquently expressed by both Glenn and Paddy. And therefore, we took some time to devise the oil and gas strategy, and I just want to talk about this a little bit. It was launched by the First Minister at Hydrosun's offices in Inverness earlier this year, and it has a number of components. And I wanted to share with you some progress that I think we've made since then. We have around 2,000 oil and gas companies in Scotland, and a great many of them, as I know from visiting around 60 companies in the time I've been Minister, have huge potential to grow. Many of them who have devised new products, new systems, new techniques, and tested them in the North Sea or west of Shetland with great success and profitability, plainly have the potential to internationalize, to grow their business, and to do in other countries what they've already succeeded in doing in Scotland. So the first element of our oil and gas strategy is to make sure that we provide, as the Scottish Government, responsibility for economic development, proper and appropriate business backup and support, especially directed towards small and medium-sized enterprises in the oil and gas sector. Therefore, we have a target of increasing by 100 the number of such businesses who are identified as having growth potential, who receive that support. I'm pleased to say that over the past few months since the strategy was devised, a great many small businesses have and are receiving that account management facility. And I make the plea to those of you here that if you think that there are companies, small companies, that are just starting off that need that support, please do let us know. But we already have had lots of advice and help from industry bodies. I've also had the opportunity, as well as working with Oil and Gas UK, of dealing very widely with the industry and all representative bodies that speak on your behalf. For example, Subsea UK with Paddy and Neil Gordon, I met just last week. For example, the OCA, Bill Murray and Dave Workman, again, I met with them last week and we discussed some truly exciting possible ventures which we can take going forward. So, from my point of view, as a humble Glasgow lawyer, my role is to take my lead from you in how we approach the industry. And the vision that we have in the strategy is your vision. It's the vision up on the screen at the beginning of this morning's events of making more of the North Sea, or to put it differently, of maximizing the recovery of oil and gas reserves from the North Sea and west of Shetland. And I think that's a vision for a number of reasons, because the greater the success in technological innovation, as was so well described by both Glenn and Paddy, the greater our propensity to continue to be world leaders. When I met Rod Christie of GE a couple of months ago, he pointed out that the design work of gas fields off Australia was being done and is being done from Aberdeen. Why? Because, he said, we have the best people in the world to do it. As Paddy has said, the potential growth of the subsea market is truly enormous. And unlike the first oil opportunity in this country in the 70s, we now have nearly 200,000 people employed in the industry, and amongst those, the best in the world. And therefore, that vision in the oil and gas strategy of maximizing recovery is not just because we want to get as much money for you and for the government out of the North Sea and the west of Shetland. It's also because by maximizing recovery, by pioneering the techniques that Glenn described in his presentation, we are able to continue to be the best in the world and to replicate what is done in the challenging conditions of the North Sea and west of Shetland anywhere and everywhere else in the world. A second element of the oil and gas strategy is in skills, and of the around 60 meetings I've had with companies over the past 18 months, there has not been one where the issue of skills has not come up. I'd be surprised if there's any companies in this room that do not have vacancies or that are not finding it difficult to find the right people, whether it's for senior management posts, project managers, technicians, or a whole variety of posts. So plainly, this is one of the key challenges facing us all, and you in particular, over the next years and indeed decades. And therefore, I'm pleased to say that a huge amount of work is being done at the moment, collaborative work in order to address this problem. And we will be coming forward with announcements early in the new year. Just yesterday, I was meeting with leaders of Aberdeen, RGU universities, Baffenbachen College and Aberdeen College, and discussing their input. Last week, I met with Gordon Ballard of Schlumberger and discussed his plans. We are also working closely with the UK government and Bill Katanach, who's here today. So what we need, ladies and gentlemen, is a multifaceted solution where we make it easy for you to recruit people from the military, particularly the Navy and the Air Force, where we do more to bring women into an industry, and that involves, I think, changing the perceptions of the industry as a precursor to successfully doing that. We need to do more in schools to encourage the taking of STEM topics, and we need to do more in schools to allow those who perhaps are in 6th year to take courses on things like project management. And we're working on all of these things. In addition to that, we need to harness the power and capacity of our academic institutions to work as one, not as a series of disparate units. And we need to encourage and facilitate the conversion or translation training, which is now a feature of the techniques which many of you are using to meet the skills challenge. In short, ladies and gentlemen, what we need is one approach where government, industry, and academe are in alignment and are working in accordance with one plan together. And that is the objective, and that will be the approach that will inform the announcements that we expect to make early next year. In addition to that, the oil and gas strategy has set up an innovation fund of £10 million, which is designed to incentivize and encourage innovation amongst SMEs. If I can make one observation about the industry, it is that it is not easy for those with new techniques, new engineering solutions, to break in, to have those solutions tried and tested in real time. And I understand that the commercial pressures dictate against trialing innovative and new techniques. I do put it to you, though, that if we are to have the innovation which both earlier speakers have talked about as essential, then there does need to be a route for those new innovative techniques to be introduced, tried, and tested. How that is done must be up to you. But I have met with a large number of companies that do appear to have potentially groundbreaking new techniques, especially engineering solutions, and find it extremely difficult to test these out in real terms. We need more collaboration, as has been said, and a great deal of success has, I think, been achieved. Just yesterday I was speaking to Mike Porter and Murdo McKeever at Peterson SBS, and they shared with me the thought that they're dealing with the same amount of tonnage as counterparts in Brazil, but they do it with 50 vessels. In Brazil, they take 200. So obviously, the amount of collaboration here, sharing vessels, as I think was mentioned by Glenn, is a good thing. But perhaps there is further scope to get down to the type of collaboration that is deployed, for example, in the Netherlands, so I'm told. So I think more collaboration is something that's easy to say, but it's much more difficult to expound. And my understanding is that this will be particularly important in relation to preserving the life of our infrastructure, and therefore how that is done, again, is up to the industry, but it could not be of more importance. Finally, in respect of our oil and gas strategy, we recognize that there is a lot to improve in Aberdeen, and therefore I was delighted that my ministerial colleague, Keith Brown, the Minister for Transport, came to Aberdeen last Monday to announce the commencement of the necessary procedures for the long awaited Western Peripheral route. It is simply unacceptable that the oil capital of Scotland, UK, and arguably Europe has the infrastructure it does. And whether it's the Western Peripheral route, whether it's connectivity, whether it's the airport, whether it's city centre traffic delays, these are all matters that must be tackled if Aberdeen is to retain its current status and present itself as an attractive place to do business, not just this year, but for several decades yet to come. Although I was delighted to see in the Press and Journal today that Aberdeen is one of the best places to live in the UK. And the thought has been put to me about attracting people to Aberdeen, that it's quite difficult to bring people to Aberdeen from London or even from the Central Belt. And Fiona Bain from Shell was discussing this with me over dinner yesterday evening with Oil and Gas UK. So the message may be it's hard to attract people to Aberdeen and Aberdeenshire, but once they come, it's hard to extract them from this part of the country. In other words, people do enjoy a great quality of life in this part of Scotland. So I think there's more PR and marketing to be done there. The last comments I want to make are these, that the primary purpose of the Scottish Government is economic growth. That is what gets me out of bed in the morning, and my title may be Minister for Energy, Enterprise and Tourism, but my job really is to try to make things happen and make economic development happen, and that is absolutely key. And it's my belief that the best way to do that is by having the best possible relationship with the UK government. And therefore I'm pleased to attend the meetings of Pilot, which is a very important body, and the last meeting of Pilot heard from Jonathan Roger of Centrica on the particular challenge of infrastructure assets and making sure that they can continue to be used for several decades to come and do not end up having to be decommissioned prematurely. I think that particular issue merits much more time and consideration. The potential amounts of revenue that could be forfeited and lost, whether for Scotland or the UK, is just staggering. And therefore I do hope that the good work that has been done can be taken forward in a very concerted way. Ladies and gentlemen, Glenn Cayley did earlier on compare the UK as a fiscal tax regime with Venezuela. It did occur to me that if I were to compare our Prime Minister in the UK with Hugo Chavez, that some people may say that I'm going slightly over the top, so I won't do that. But I think, joking aside, what is absolutely crystal clear to me as the Energy Minister in Scotland is that fiscal stability must be the centrepiece of any tax policy for the oil and gas industry. Anything else is simply the wrong approach. And a stable approach with certainty over the lifetime of projects must be the Holy Grail so far as supporting your industry and maximising success for any government that is in charge. And therefore, that approach of fiscal stability is one which I recognise as absolutely key. In addition to that, we do think that any tax changes should not be brought in without full consultation with the industry, and there should be, as I believe in the Netherlands, a system of consultation before any fiscal change is introduced. And thirdly, the issues of brownfield allowances could not be more critical or serious. It would be absolutely tragic were fields to be lost through production ceasing prematurely, both for the Treasury and for the industry. So we support a tax policy which encourages and incentivises the maximisation of recovery, which we all wish to see. Ladies and gentlemen, just in bringing my remarks to a close, I do look forward to continuing to work closely with the UK government. There are a number of joint events which I think if we hold together we can demonstrate that we are kind of rising above the day-to-day interchange of politics and focusing on your needs as an industry, some of which I hope I've covered in my speech today. Our oil and gas strategy at the very start refers to the fact that oil first came ashore in, I think, 1974 or 5 from the Argyll field, and it was only a couple of years later that the Clare field was itself discovered. Who would have thought then that Clare Ridge will, according to BP, be expected to continue in production till 2050? There is a great future for oil and gas in Scotland and the UK. I want to see that industry become an industry of career of choice for many young people in Scotland, and I think we need an advertising campaign throughout the UK to bring that about and change those perceptions. I have a 4-year-old daughter who's got a very clear life plan at the current time. She's worked out what she wants to do when she is an adult. She has told me, "Daddy, I want to be a princess in the morning and a ballerina in the afternoon." But I do hope that when she's a bit older, it will seem a normal and sensible and smart thing for her as a female to choose to have an engineering career and perhaps a career in this great industry. And if she chooses so to do, I expect she will have a career for her lifetime as well as those of her friends. So thank you very much indeed for listening to me, and I look forward to continuing to work with you over the coming year.